Hello, my name's Richard Felix, and I'm going to take you on a ghostly tour of haunted Suffolk. Some of the stories I'm going to tell you are of ghosts, of spirits and entities, and of course witches, murders, executions, gibbeting and dissections. And what better place to start this tour than here at Bury St Edmunds. 68 witches were hanged in one day on the orders of Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General. Bury St Edmunds was the assize town where the trials took place, and of course the executions took place as well. Here we are at the old abbey, destroyed in 1327 by the townspeople. They rioted here in Bury St Edmunds, burnt down the abbey. There are at least 3 ghosts reported seen here in the abbey precincts. One is the ghost of Maud Carew, who was a nun here at the abbey. She poisoned the Duke of Gloucester, but unfortunately, by accident, took some of the poison herself and of course died. And her ghostly wraith has been seen wandering around the precincts. Also, ghosts of 2 different monks have also been seen wandering around here. But we're off now to a place called Moyses Hall, where we have the most incredible murder story and ghost story. And also inside that place, after the sacking of the abbey, the townspeople went to Moyses Hall, and someone reported seeing the devil himself inside the place. So, come and join me now at Moyses Hall, and settle back, give me your full attention, turn down the lights, and let me take you on a haunted tour of ghostly Suffolk. Well, I'm inside Moyses Hall Museum. With me, Chris Mycock, your museum assistant.
That's right. Yes.
And here we have the most incredible array of items to do with one of the most famous murder stories, possibly, certainly of all time, if you like, surely, and ghost story as well to go with it.
Yeah.
This, of course, is all the items from a man called William Corder, who murdered a girl called Maria Martin, who was the daughter of a mole catcher.
Yeah.
She'd had a baby by him which had died, I believe.
That's right.
And he didn't want the family to know. He promised to marry her, but in fact what really happened was that he murdered her in what was known as the Red Barn, which is at Polstead.
Was at Polstead.
That's right. The barn's gone, of course.
Well gone.
That's a shame, isn't it? But we do actually have a picture, amongst other things, of that is the actual...
That's said to be how it looked. We also have a pottery model
of it as well. Good, because it is, which is such a famous story. Yeah. Now, he murdered her, and of course, the ghost story comes in partly from her stepmother, Anne, who, of course, they knew not where she'd gone.
She disappeared.
Yes, indeed, yeah. And
Corder kept writing or seeing them and saying, no, she's hurt her hand, she can't write, we're married, she's living in Yarmouth, that was Yarmouth on the Isle of Wight, she's well, she sends her regards. And this went on for months.
Yeah.
The murder was in April.
Yep. 1828?
May 1827.
Yep.
She wasn't discovered till April 1828.
Yeah.
She disappeared. She left her small child. She'd had
yes, because she'd had various children. I know.
Children. Each had a different father.
Yeah.
And the second one was by Corder's older brother.
Yes, that's right.
So Maria was, should we say, seemed to have been a friendly girl.
Yes,
highly regarded, I think, by people in the village. She was well educated. She'd been brought up in a vicarage in Service, so she'd had to go back home to to look after her children when her siblings, when her mother had died.
That's right.
Father
yeah.
remarried. The
That's right.
stepmother was only a few years older than Mariah.
So they've probably got a bit of an affinity.
I
Do you
think
think?
so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she dreamt of the murder on 3 consecutive nights, I believe. She actually dreamt of the place where her stepdaughter's body was lying. Is that correct?
So we're told.
Yeah.
They actually played this down in the trial because they didn't want to.
Yeah,
arise
because it was
this
not
superstition.
exactly. Yeah, sort of ghostly goings on and that sort of thing.
Apparently, she wouldn't give poor old Mr. Martin any peace until he actually went up to the Red Barn,
And
prodded around in the barn floor, found a soft piece of earth. Something rather nasty came up on the end of his mole spud. Then he sent for a spade.
Yeah.
He dug a hole, found a body. He recognised her by some of the clothes that she'd been wearing.
Yeah.
Then they called for the constable. The constable did a bit of investigation, found Corder living in London. And running a girls' school.
Good grief.
With his new wife. Of a few months.
But it was the dream that caused her husband to go and dig.
That's right.
With his, what is it, a mole spud? And is that...
That is said to be the actual...
Can we have a look inside?
We can certainly do.
Oh my goodness.
Spud, of course, being a spade.
I see.
Not a potato.
So, I see. So that would probably be the one that was...
That's the spud end, the mole catcher would have
Yeah.
dug up moles with. But this is...
That's what he killed them with.
This is the end that he found Mariah with.
Oh,
there would have been
my
a
gosh.
long wooden handle
Yes,
in
of course.
between. You can see the bits of
Yeah,
wood left,
yeah.
but
Wow.
that's mostly gone.
Corder, of course, was tried and sentenced and, of course, hanged for murder. But during the trial, they actually, because they didn't know exactly how she was killed, they put everything down, including stabbed with a sword, a blunt instrument, a sharp instrument, suffocated by the earth, and shot.
And strangled.
And strangled with a scarf. Or so. Yeah, so they got him.
The indictment takes up, I think it's about 7 pages
My
in the
goodness me.
trial.
Yeah.
They didn't leave any possible loophole.
Wow. They hanged him, and then, of course, part of the sentence for murderers was either to be hung up in a gibbet cage or publicly dissected.
Yes.
They put his body on show at the Shire Hall. 6,000 people passed through to look at him.
Apparently, yeah.
And then, of course, they dissected him. But the dreadful, dreadful thing is that parts of him were and still are preserved.
Indeed.
You've got them here in this glass case.
We have here part of William Corder. This is his scalp.
This is the back of his head.
This is the back of his head with his right ear attached.
Oh my goodness.
If you look very carefully, you can actually see the stubble of his hair.
I'll put my glasses on if I may.
And there is a story that the hair grew after death, but in fact what happens, the skin shrinks and the shaft of the hair, which is still
may I touch it? I shouldn't. Just at the side, just to say, I mean,
yes.
My goodness me, I've got no vibes coming from it, but to have actually touched the scalp of someone that was actually hanged is quite amazing.
It's rather gruesome.
Yes,
But
indeed.
that's not necessarily the most gruesome part, because here we have a rather nice account of the trial.
Yes.
Beautifully leather bound.
Beautifully bound.
But this leather is actually part of William Corder. They tanned part of his hide and turned it into a book.
My goodness me.
A book cover.
So that is his skin, his hide.
That is his skin.
Leather bound.
Yeah.
And what? Can we have a look at the inside?
We can have a
just
look
to
at
see
the inside, and the inscription here says, "The binding of this book is the skin of the murderer William Corder, taken from his body and tanned by myself in the year 1828, and that's signed by George Creed, surgeon to the Suffolk Hospital."
Absolutely fascinating. Now, there's more. I mean, there's his death mask there. There's the model done for phrenology, which of course in those days they studied the scalp and the skull to see what made people murderers. And you can actually see on this model, you can see how his face is sort of swollen because he'd just been hanged, and you can even see the rope marks round his neck where the rope bit into his neck as he was hanged, because the executioner had to hang onto his legs to give him a quicker end. And then, of course, also his skull, his skeleton, of course, was wired and presented to the West Suffolk Hospital. And there's a ghost story again to do with that, is there not, from a Dr. Kilner who pinched his skull?
Dr. Kilner is said to have appropriated, or maybe misappropriated, the skull. And he kept it in the cabinet.
That's right.
In his house. And at night he used to hear strange bangings and thumpings and all sorts of noise. So he decided he would have to get rid of this skull. So he was taking it off in a box, to bury in the fields. And the box is said to have fallen out of his hands. The skull fell out and rolled across the floor, across the ground, and landed at the feet of a certain well-known lady who was just happened to be coming down the steps of the Angel Hotel at the time.
Absolutely. And of course, once the skull was reburied, or buried for the first time, of course, the phenomena stopped. No more ghostly goings on in Dr. Kilner's house. He was losing money, apparently, until he was coming on sort of bad times. And apparently he also used to see a figure in his drawing room wearing a sort of furry type hat and a blue coat. And again, he believed that could well have been the ghost of Corder coming to get his skull to put it back on the skeleton. What an incredible story. Very quickly, we've also got a gibbet cage up here.
Indeed.
And that was actually dug up underneath the gibbet when the place became an airfield of a murderer. And there's a very small ghost story to do with that, is there not?
Yes. Two little stories. The first one is that when Nichols, the murderer, was hanging in his gibbet cage, some of the locals they'd been in the pub and had a few jars, and they said, "Oh, I wonder how old Nichols is."
Yep.
So off they went, trudging through the fields. One of their number, parted company, ran round by another way and hid behind a tree. When they got, how Nichols, how are you doing? He said, "I'm tired and I'm cold and I'm hungry and I want to get down from here." And of course they all ran away. But when I first started working here, which was about 20 odd years ago, I remember an airman coming in who was based at the air base, and he was a dog handler, and he said that the dogs actually refused to go near the site where this gibbet cage was dug up.
My goodness. Oh boy. Chris, it's been fascinating. It's been an absolute privilege to be able to see those items. Thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh yes, just a bit. I'm in the middle of Lowestoft, the High Street. It's a windy day. It's May the 1st. And I'm standing outside the Royal Falcon Public House. It's a very, very old place. Whenever we do the research for this National Ghost Tour, we obviously use books, records, and of course we also use the internet. And that's where we found the story of this place. But it is such an unusual story that I really need to read what we found on the internet. And it's from BBC News Online. And it states, a pub landlord has taken out insurance against ghosts following fears the resident poltergeist could hurt his customers. Terry Meggs of the Royal Falcon Hotel in Lowestoft decided he needed to cover his pub after claiming he saw the ghost shoot glasses along the bar at night. For a premium of £500 a year, the policy will pay up to £1 million if staff or customers are killed or suffer permanent disability caused by ghosts, poltergeists or other abnormal phenomena on the premises. The 500-year-old building, which is next to a disused graveyard, is one of the oldest in Lowestoft and was formerly East Home Girls' School. Now, I've been banging on the door for quite a while, and unfortunately I can't get in, and I find it very strange because when you actually look through the windows, which are extremely dirty, it doesn't look as if anyone's been here for a bit. You can see inside the bar. It's a bit spooky. The lights are on, but there doesn't appear to be anyone there. And I'm just wondering whether the landlord has actually given up in desperation and whether the poltergeist of this place has actually driven him away. I can't get in, nobody will answer, I'll probably never know. There are many stories of ghost ships, the Mary Celeste, and of course the Flying Dutchman. But here at Oulton Broad in Suffolk, they have their own ghost ship, a wherry, a large sailed cargo ship. It was called the Mayfly. The date was July 1851. And a Mr. Downey, a wealthy man from Beccles, wanted to transport £4,000 in a chest to Yarmouth. He decided the best way would be to sail it from Oulton Broad down the River Waveney to Yarmouth. He sent his daughter Millicent with the chest. It looked as if she was just going on a trip to Yarmouth. On board the ship was the captain, Captain Stevens, better known as Blood Stevens. He had a mate, a sailor, and a cook called Bert, who was a young boy. They set sail down the Waveney, but the captain had an evil plan. He was going to steal the money. He told the mate. The mate would not go in with him, and so the captain clubbed him on the head and threw him into the water, and he drowned. The captain that evening got drunk and went down to the cabin where Millicent was and assaulted her. She fought back. The captain had a pocket knife which he took out, and he slashed the girl across the throat, inflicting a very deep wound into the side of her throat. The sailor came to help. The captain overpowered him as well, dragged him up on deck and threw him over into the sea. All that was left was the boy Bert, who was hiding in the cabin. The girl, unbeknown to the captain, picked up a large knife, came up on deck and stabbed Blood Stevens through the heart. He died on the deck, and then the unfortunate girl collapsed on top of him and also died from loss of blood. All that was left was the poor boy, Bert, alone, not knowing how to sail the ship. He launched the dinghy and got onto it and floated away. Many days later, he landed at Plymouth. He was suffering, of course, from lack of water and lack of food, but eventually he recovered. He came and told Mr. Downey the story, and they forged a friendship. 3 years later, Mr. Downey and the boy Bert were fishing here on Oulton Broad when all of a sudden the weather changed. Lightning started and thunder, and then they saw this large ghost ship, white, phosphorus, sailing towards them with its sails billowing. It was too much for Mr. Downey, who by that time was an old man. He died of a heart attack. And they say that on the anniversary of that dreadful event, the 24th of July, people to this day still see Blood Stevens and his wherry sailing onto Oulton Broad with murder on the decks and death at the helm. Mr. Harbour Master, you're not going to arrest me for trespassing, are you?
No,
that's all right.
No,
thank you very much. Do they still see the wherry here or not?
No, some people say that they have, but really they haven't. And the reason that they haven't, as far as I'm concerned, is that we have a bonfire on August Bank holiday out on the Broads on a raft, and on top of the bonfire is a golden wherry, and we burn the golden wherry, and that is supposed to keep the Mayfly off the Broads. So that's why people don't see it.
Oh, I see.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So every year, as a sort of visitor attraction, tourist attraction, August Bank holiday.
It's Bank holiday Monday, before the firework display, just as it's getting dark, we burn the golden wherry.
That is amazing.
And that's supposed to keep the Mayfly off the Broads. It's a well-known, Mayfly's a well-known story.
Oh, exactly. Oh, I mean, it's sort of Flying Dutchman type stuff.
Yeah, it's a well-known story. But I don't know when it started, the burning of the Golden Ware, I don't know when it started, but I've been here 11 years and I've lived in those stuff 40 years now, and that's all the time I've been here, they've
always
been
happened.
doing it.
Amazing. English tradition.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks very much indeed.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm in the grounds of Roos Hall, very close to Beccles, and here we have the famous hanging tree. This was once used to hang felons from. Hanging was introduced into this country at the time of the Saxons in about 600 AD. And all it was a convenient tree with a large bough sticking out from it, like this one up here. A rope would have been thrown over it. The rope would then be attached to the culprit's neck, tightened, and they would then have been hauled up to die very slowly of slow strangulation, taking anything up to a quarter of an hour to die. No wonder there are ghosts connected with this tree. This is a place of terror and of course of torment. There is the ghost of a man that's often seen loitering around this tree wearing old ragged clothes, and they say that it's the ghost of a man that was sentenced at Beccles to be hanged for robbery, because in those days you could be hanged for well over 200 offences. They hanged him here at the tree, and later they found out that he was in fact innocent, and they say he's still lingering, waiting for justice to be done. There's also a story of the devil, and actually in the hall here at Roos there is what's known to be a devil's footprint. But they say that anyone who walks round this tree 6 times will conjure up the devil. Never done anything like this before. You must remember that I do believe in these things. So here goes. 1. Two. 3. 4. 5. Here goes. Goodness only knows what's going to happen. I am concerned. 6. I presume you noticed that the whole time I was doing this there was a black cat with me. That bothered me as well. I think the best thing I can do is to hightail it out of here before old Nick comes. Come on, puss! From this vantage point, you can just see the village of Blythburgh and the church of Holy Trinity. I'm on the common near the village. This area is known as Toby's Walks. In 1750, a regiment of soldiers were camped near the village, and a young soldier boy, a drummer called Tobias Gill, was ejected from the local pub, the White Hart. He was drunk. He wandered onto the common and met a girl called Anne Blakemore. He murdered her. He strangled her with his scarf and left her body here. The following morning he was arrested. He was tried, sentenced and hanged for murder, probably at Bury St Edmunds. Part of the sentence for murderers in those days was that you also were hung up 30 feet high on a gibbet post in a metal cage. The body was tarred to preserve it, and the crows pecked at the flesh and pecked out the eyes. His body was left there for over 50 years, and eventually the gibbet cage was taken down, and they say he was buried in the church, but it was very seldom that murderers were allowed to be buried in consecrated ground, and it's much more likely that his bleached bones were buried here underneath the gibbet. And they say that on a dark, windy night, people can still hear the creaking of that gibbet cage, and people walking their dogs here have often reported seeing the ghostly figure of a soldier, the ghost of Tobias Gill. And it's pretty obvious, I'm in the centre of Ipswich. With me is Pete, who does the Ipswich Ghost Walk, and so let's be honest, there's nobody better to talk about the ghosts of Ipswich than you. So over to you, sir.
Well, we're right on the site of one, just by the Tourist Information Office. This is the old St Stephen's Church, and just down in the side of the building in that corner there, when the tourist board took the place over a few years ago, people started seeing ghosts of a couple of ladies, and it's a good example of a modern ghost, because these ladies are like in their 60s with ordinary clothes of today on, and it was looked into. They called them the organist because that's where the organ used to be.
Right.
And turned out, when this church was still going as a church, haven't got many houses around here now because it's the town centre.
Yes, of course.
Congregation went, vicar went, but these two ladies, they kept the place going. They'd come in and polish the pews and arrange the flowers, open it every Sunday whether there was anybody here or not.
Right.
Eventually the authorities said, sorry, we can't keep it going, it's too much money, and they were very, very upset. One of them unfortunately died quite quickly after, and the other one followed. One of the nice things to do on ghost tours is, you probably know yourself, people keep coming to you with more and more details.
They do. Yes, indeed, you're adding to the jigsaw all the time.
One lady come up and said, I used to flog them the flowers each week, you
Good
know,
Lord.
and things like
Yeah.
that. But one night I had a lady come on who told me that they were her great aunts. They lived in the Rushmere area of Ipswich, and it was virtually their life. They lived together in the house, never married, and this was their life. And when this went, their life went, unfortunately. So it was just probably why they've got such a strong attachment to the building.
They linger. They in fact stay with the building because of their love for it, I would think.
Yeah. Tell you what, we've done the church. Shall we do the pub?
Shall we? Now, that's a very good idea. Yeah. Church, then pub. Excellent.
Back in my misspent youth, I used to be a disco DJ, and this is one of the places I used to play.
Right.
In the little flat roof bit along the side.
Yeah.
And in those days, a couple called Jim and Doris Biddulph used to run it. Jim was known as Ban and Biddulph because he was always banning people, but he'd let you back in next week, you know,
right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
And they had this thing happen there. Wife Doris says to him, Jim, that little old junk room, why don't you turn it into a bedroom so when our relatives come down from Yorkshire, where they come from, somewhere to stay. Yes, dear, he said, knows who the boss is. So he gets in there, carpets it, wallpaper, bed, the works. The last thing he goes to do, put a mirror on the wall.
Right.
I have a mirror, screws this mirror on the wall, goes back a few hours later, and it's got a big crack across it. So probably screwed it up too tight, warped mirror, whatever, takes the pieces down, puts another one up the same a few days later, comes back, all in pieces on the floor.
Yeah.
So they tried standing one on the chest of drawers, that fell off. They tried a chain on the wall, all sorts. Couldn't. 6 mirrors.
Always breaking.
6 mirrors in 6 weeks. Yeah. And also this room always seemed a little bit chilly. And they never saw a ghost at the time, but they always used to laugh and say, mirror crack, a ghost. I've been telling that story to friends for about 30 years, and tell it on the ghost tour and so on. Anyway, one night I had a chap on the ghost tour,
Yes.
and he says, I bet I know which room it is. I said, oh, you heard the story before? He said, no, he says, but that's a bit of a coincidence. I said, well, come on, tell us. He said, this end section, at the back, upstairs, smallest little room in the middle. So I said, oh yeah. So, how do you know? I said, that's the right one. He said, I'm an electrician. My company's been in there 3 times to rewire it. They still can't keep a light bulb no more in about 2 months. Good grief. That's not the end. One of the ladies who managed it in there for a while, we told her the story, she knew it. She got very excited one Christmas because her boyfriend was coming back from abroad, going to move in. So he turns up with all these bags and boxes and so on. Where shall I put these? And she told us that this little room is just a little box room now. Up the stairs he goes. He didn't know the story. So where shall I put the bags and boxes? Oh, just in that room there. Opens the door, flicks on the light. As he does, the light bulb goes pop. Well, all right, you know, that's not necessarily a psychic experience or anything. So anyway, puts the stuff down, leans out of the door to say, here, the light bulb's gone. And as he does, the shadowy figure walks down the corridor.
Wow.
30 years on, there's still stuff happening in there.
Good Lord. Anybody know
Nobody knows who it is, what it is, or anything.
Yet.
But but the room apparently is still chilly. They don't use it for much now. It's just got a filing cabinet and a few papers in. But maybe that's the reason why they keep it that
possible.
way.
But again, as you've already said, things get added to all the time, and one day someone will probably add another piece to it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very good.
The play in Ipswich.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Come on up this way.
Come on then. And what about this? I mean, that has got to be something special,
building,
isn't it? Wonderful.
It's the ancient house. It's probably the best known old building in Ipswich.
Wow.
And if you look underneath those windows,
yes,
4 continents: America, Africa, Asia, and Europe.
Right.
One's missing. Australia, isn't it?
Of course, yes.
They hadn't discovered it when this place was built.
Oh my goodness.
But if you notice over the top of the crest, C2R,
yes.
Charles II,
oh yes,
gives you a clue that the plasterwork, the pargeting as we call it,
yes,
wasn't original. This was because this place was built late 1500s,
right.
And of course Charles II came back onto the throne towards the end of the 1500s.
Yeah, correct.
So this was a celebration by the people who lived here. Hooray, the king is back, which is really unusual in Ipswich because Ipswich was a Puritan stronghold.
Oh, was it?
So these lot, the Sparrow family who lived here for centuries, they were under house arrest half the time, and this was their way of going, yes. The outside man, you know. When I was a little boy, they used to have a wax model of Charles sitting in a chair in a priest hole room because he was reckoned to have stayed here on the run from the Battle of Worcester.
Possible.
Yeah. At least they were royalists.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, it's always had a story of a grey lady ghost in the days when it used to be a bookshop and everything else.
Yeah.
Old-fashioned clothes, haunting around upstairs generally.
Yeah.
So anyway, the shop closed, reopened as Lakeland Plastics and so on. And my friend Ed, who you've met one day...
Yes, indeed I have. Yes, came to Derby.
Rang me up and said, hey, there's a new bit to the story. The manager there has had problems with the new shop. Displays have fell down for no reason. The staff's frightened because they've seen this grey lady ghost and all this sort of thing. Called a medium in from the town that he come from, because he didn't come from around here. She came in and said, oh yes, there's definitely something here. They're not winding you up. This is, this
real
is
stuff.
old, this is female. Let me wander about a bit and I'll see what I can find out. Came back and said, can't tell you much more. I was looking for a name. The only name I could get was Lakeland, which is your company name. It must be all your signs putting me off.
Yes.
So he told me that on the phone in the morning. Afternoon in the archives, I was looking at Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General,
yes,
who had a reign of terror in 1645.
Did just
400 people probably responsible for their deaths.
Yes,
so
68 in Bury St Edmunds alone, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, in Ipswich, he only arrested 9.
Yes,
because we're good blokes. You see. That or more crafty, not getting caught.
Yeah.
And so I thought, right, what happened with these? 8 of them sent up to Bury St Edmunds for trial. 4 of them found not guilty. 1 man and 3 women found not guilty, let off. The other 4 were hung. Witches were hung in England, not burnt like in Scotland or on the continent.
Indeed, yes.
But what about the other one? There was 9. The other one was Widow Mary Lackland.
You are kidding.
And I'd heard this story about Lakeland in the morning. Well, coincidence, you know, it doesn't prove anything. But it got all the more interesting because she was supposed to have killed various people by witchcraft, including the servant of Mrs. Jennings, and my name's Jennings.
Oh, yes.
And her husband and the tutor of her grandchild. Now, this is somebody who could afford a tutor for her grandchild. She got money, she got position, not like the rest of them who were like little old ladies.
Oh,
living on
indeed,
parish
yes.
road. Not a typical victim.
No.
So started looking at this one. Why was she kept in Ipswich, not up to Bury? And, well, there was always this thing about Hopkins that he was in with the Puritans, that they used his system of spies, informers, to get rid of any stray royalists or royalist sympathisers. And I think that's what be happening in this case, you see. In the trial, she's accused of these various things, put them to death by the use of some familiars, 2 dogs and a mole, so she obviously buried them to death.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And so, but of course, like any good trial record, it says who the people were, what they worked at, and what their address was.
Yes.
And it says what her husband did. He was a barber. Now, a barber in those days would do surgery on people, not just
barber surgeons.
Your arms and legs.
They did indeed.
Where did he do it? St Stephen's Lane, Ipswich.
Which is that sign up there on
the next door neighbours to Ancient House.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So if she was a royalist sympathiser or spy, of course she'd come and talk to the royalists on the corner.
Of course she would.
How's the battle going, you know?
Yeah. So and she occupied the building at some time,
of course,
possibly.
If you want to get some connection there, you know, this medium that comes in and gets this name Lakeland without knowing anything about the Sparrow family or her or anything else. So I think that the medium actually got it right without knowing it.
I'm sure you're right, yeah.
Unfortunately, Widow Mary Lakeland was burnt, not hung. Why?
Heretic?
Well, not quite heretic. Petty treason.
Oh, yes.
Because she'd done away with her husband. And in those days, if you killed your husband, he was reckoned to be the representative of the king in your household.
Petty
Therefore,
treason.
You'd killed a bit of the king. And this from the people who were fighting the king and had executed one.
Amazing.
Hypocrisy or what?
Yeah, too right.
When I tell you stories like that, do you ever get a feeling like somebody looking over your shoulder, you know, a bit creepy?
Yes, often.
Well, in this case, somebody is.
Oh my goodness!
People who pass beneath that without ever noticing it. Always look above the shops, not in the windows. It saves you money.
Absolutely, fantastic. Now, Pete, tell me, you do these ghost walks on regular occasions, of course.
First Thursday of the month for the general public, and then private tours in between.
Right, and you've been going 5 years.
Yeah.
Growing all the time.
Yeah, people keep bringing us more and more stories, more and more details on the stories we've already got. It's wonderful.
And they can book, of course, through the
tourist board. Yeah.
Tourist Information Office, Tourist Board, here in the church.
Lane, in Ipswich. Yeah.
Pete, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much. We're in the Crown Hotel at Bildeston. This is reputedly one of the most haunted hotels or inns in Great Britain. Many national newspapers have covered it. This is where we're staying tonight. We had a fantastic meal, a couple of pints, and we now want to find out more about the place. Yeah? and so you're going to tell me, hopefully, a little bit about it, from when it started right through to things, and things are still happening today, I presume.
Things still happen. Fresh things are happening now. Like I said, there was a fresh thing earlier, which it took us quite a few months, detective work, to actually work out.
Yep.
That we had customers coming to us and saying, what was that argument about in the bar? And we've asked, what argument? And there's a bloke in a brown baggy suit comes to within about 4 foot of the bar, shaking his finger, mouthing words, but no voice comes out.
Right.
And it took us ages to work out by descriptions of this suit. It's only a brown baggy suit with turn-ups. We worked out it must be 50s or 60s. But it took us ages to actually realise this must have some significance with the Crays used to live here in the village. Well, not
really?
Had not a holiday home, it's their mother's home. They bought a big house across the way for their mother called the Brooks.
Right.
And we only worked out this started 2 years ago, which must have been about the same time as the last Craig died.
Of course, yeah.
Now, whether he's still any spiritual word comes here and this ghost has now found him, we don't know.
So they drank here?
They drank in this very bar.
Wow. God,
They
blimey.
came over weekends to get away from the problems.
Yes,
or
of course. Yeah.
To here to their
Yeah.
mother's place,
Yeah.
and they never brought no trouble with them. People in this village never actually realised
No.
until actually got arrested who they were.
Well, well, well.
I mean, down the road, 200 yards away, was actually an old Ford main dealers. They bought their Zephyrs there, what they were running around in, and filled them with fuel.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's say this thing only started 2 years ago, so new guests were appearing all the time, new
Yes.
ghosts from
Yeah.
things related to this place.
Yeah, yeah.
But the ghosts do go back a lot further back than that.
Right. Yep.
I mean, as far as we know, the ghosts go back as far as the Black Death, which is when the village was moved up here, because we actually have what we think is a priest hole or priest escape to the church underneath.
Yes.
The actual
a
hotel,
tunnel.
under the cellars. Yes. There's an old cellar underneath where you're standing, with archways, staircases, and a lot of walls bricked up. We don't know where they go yet.
Really?
Yeah. But we daren't actually explore them because there's actually underground rivers running through, streams running through here.
Oh, so health and safety would probably not
Health
allow
and
you.
safety won't let us open up.
What a
It's an
shame.
extension of the restaurant because we can't get fire escapes up to it, which is a shame, really.
That is a shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ghostly occurrences, things that have gone on here. What sort of things?
Guests report all sorts of things. Mostly they're children related.
Right.
Upstairs,
Yes.
and downstairs can be adult ghost related.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
behind you in that corner, it's always been reported. I've never witnessed it. This is an old one. That a man with a three-corner hat sits in this chair,
Right.
but
Yeah.
he hasn't been seen for quite a while.
No.
He hasn't. We've had reportings of a red-haired lady in the toilets who grabs men's genitals.
Wonderful.
We think that
Is this in the
wishful
gents'
thinking.
toilets?
We think that's wishful thinking. There's a lot of people who come out and have actually said this to us.
Really?
But my personal experience with ghosts is I've been in here and had people looking around the walls at posters.
Yes.
And I've asked people like, who actually served him with a drink because there's no one else in the bar. And they've said, what bloke? And you look again and he's gone. But this is a modern day bloke, we don't know who that was. That could have been just my imagination. But I've washed glasses up and told people I've stopped throwing things at me. Great handfuls of rice.
Really? Poltergeist activity.
Yeah, great handfuls of rice. No, but nothing actually hits you. It hits the wall.
Right.
You can hear it against blackboards behind you.
Yeah.
It hits the wall when you get back to it. You tell people going about stop throwing things, stop it. I'm busy, you know.
Yeah.
And when you look behind the washing machines where you're working, there's nothing there.
Now, talking about guests upstairs, I've obviously staying here tonight. Yeah, and I've got room number six, and I'm told that that's the most haunted bedroom that's here.
the one room that is the most reported to
Fine.
have any incidents in.
Really? And what happens?
Well, mostly say children related. They'll be
Right.
lying in bed at night and you'll hear children's voices and you'll hear children playing.
Yes.
Probably a couple of children. One guest woke his wife up in the middle of the night and said, someone's trying to pull me out of the bed. They threw back the covers. He wasn't afraid of it.
Yeah.
His wife was in hysterics because you could actually see a small handprint finger marks in his bottom of his leg, pressing him and pulling him, and his leg was being pulled.
Pulling him out of bed.
Pulling him, and for a few seconds, it's only lasted another 10-15 seconds, I was trying to pull him. You could see the red marks where they're actually, or red mark in his
Good
leg,
grief.
where they're pulling his leg, and she was in hysterics and had to leave the room.
So it wasn't his wife getting amorous or anything like that?
No. This was actually someone trying to pull him out of the bed, but no harm whatsoever, you know, no intentional harm.
No,
it was
no.
it, and it stopped.
And that's the room I'm in tonight.
You hear giggling children playing. It's obviously they died, they had a short, happy life.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're not evil ghosts or anything like that. They're happy.
We've got no
Everything's
poltergeist.
no.
There's we think it's just a folk that somebody, because the actual Suffolk hunt starts in the car park here on Boxing Day.
Right.
They all have sherry in the car park. And
Yeah.
what we think one of the riders had too many sherries, and this hallway behind that door there, they reckon he tried to
Through there?
ride his horse through there.
Oh my
and
God. Out the back.
The story is he actually decapitated himself on a beam, but what actually they did say happened, he knocked himself clean out hitting a beam trying to ride through it.
Oh my God. Does he haunt the place as well?
No, we don't.
No. Oh, that's something. That's a-
Somebody once reported a child on a bicycle riding through there.
Gosh. So basically,
no.
you've got lots of ghosts.
Yeah.
You've got a plethora of ghosts. Yeah. And And the most haunted place in the building is where I'm sleeping tonight.
You've got the worst.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. This is it. This is the most haunted bedroom in the whole place, and I must be quite honest with you, I've had a few beers because I'm frightened of ghosts. This is the most haunted room in the whole Crown Hotel, and while I was downstairs in the bar it was fine. There were people with me, but I'm alone, and don't like it. I've got a couple of items with me. One, a meter to check the temperature, because they tell me this is the place where they hear children. This is where someone had their leg grabbed, and I've got to sleep here alone. So first thing I need to do is to check the temperature. It's 19 degrees, still at 19, all the way around the room. It's gone up to 20. Okay, I can accept that, that's no problem. 20 degrees all the way round. Here I have an EMF meter which checks the electromagnetic field in this room, and all I need to do is go round and check that there's no fluctuation in the room to make sure that there's nothing happening at the moment, and there doesn't appear to be. Oh my God, what's that? Now, obviously any electricity tends to alter it, but God. I'm in the middle of the room here, look at this. Oh my God. That's not good. It's not that lamp. I go, yeah, fine, but hang on. This is in the middle of the room, and there's a change in the electromagnetic field. I don't like it. Let's go over here. Nothing. Absolutely nothing here. Nope. Little bathroom here. Old timber frames. No, nothing at all. Noise over there. Didn't like that. My bed. Nothing. Thank God. Let's go back over here and see what happens. Look at this. Now, I'm in the middle of the room here, and I'm picking up a change again, and I don't like that at all. I'm worried. End of story. Put them down there. I've now got to go and get into bed. It's 12:20 on May the 1st, 2003. It's my first night alone in a haunted bedroom, in a haunted hotel. I've had a few drinks, not so bad. Who knows? Let's see what happens. Good night. Suffolk has ghost ships like the Mary Celeste, but it also has lost cities, just like Atlantis. This place is Dunwich. There is behind the cliffs still a small village, but in the 1300s Dunwich was almost a city, a very, very important seaport in East Anglia until the cliffs started to crumble and the port crumbled literally into the sea and was taken over completely. The whole city of Dunwich, the lost city of Dunwich, is still under the sea to this day. There are of course ghost stories. People say when they're walking along the cliff top that they see dark shadowy figures of people. They say that they are the inhabitants of the 14th century Dunwich. People camping here say they hear the voices of children playing, and again they think that they are the lost souls from the old city. The whole city is submerged by the sea, and they say that before a bad storm takes place that you can still hear the bells pealing under the water, and the fishermen and boatmen will not go out onto the sea if they hear the bells, because it's a warning of impending storm. I've just asked a gentleman here on the beach how to pronounce the village, the name, to get it right, and he told me that next week on the 8th of May a TV company called Spooks are coming here and sending divers out into the sea to find the lost ghostly city of Dunwich. This is the village of Long Melford in Suffolk. I'm standing in front of the Bull Hotel. It goes back to 1450, and I've been in a lot of beautiful timber framed haunted inns. I don't think I've ever seen anything as magnificent as this is inside, and of course it's got a magnificent ghost story as well, so much better to do these on the inside, so come in with me. This place has probably got the most magnificent beams, oak beams, that in the whole of Suffolk. And the murder story and the ghost story happened here. Actually, here in the hallway. A wealthy merchant called Richard Everard was murdered here in this hallway, and his blood actually drained onto these flagstones that are down here. And of course his ghost still haunts the building to this day, but we've actually got an eyewitness in the bar, so come with me. Hi Sue.
Hi.
Now then, you have actually had ghostly experiences yourself.
Yeah,
Here.
right here.
In the
Yeah,
bar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a friend and I were sitting here one day eating lunch, and the bar door was closed, and then all of a sudden this, which was hanging up over there above where the crisps
Is
are
it
now.
tankard? It's a sort of copper tankard, isn't it,
Yeah,
of sorts?
that's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was hanging up above where the crisps are now, like on a metal hook.
Yeah.
And we were sitting right here, and it flew off and landed right down by the dishwasher.
And it was on a hook,
It was on a hook, on a big cup.
so invisible hands lifted it
Yeah.
off the hook
Yeah,
and
just landed down
threw it
there.
across there.
Yeah, we just sat here and looked at each other, and you know, what was that? And there was nothing. It was just dead, you know, so silent.
Nobody else in here.
Nobody else around at
Did
all.
you sense anything? Well, I bet you did afterwards, but I mean,
Yeah,
fear.
afterwards, not beforehand. No,
No drop in temperature.
no, didn't. Well, no, didn't sort of feel anything like that. You know, it was just, it just flew off and landed right down there.
Wow.
And
No chance of vibration or anything like that.
no, there was nothing. There was no one walking across the floors above. Nothing. There was no one in the hotel except the two of us and the receptionist, which is outside.
And the ghost.
And the ghost. Yeah.
My goodness. Now you've also got a couple of haunted bedrooms as well,
We have,
I believe.
Yeah, we have.
Is it possible? Could I have a look in one of those?
I'm not sure whether there's anybody in there.
Oh, I see. Well, shall we go and ask and find out?
Yeah,
Because I hate to burst in on anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go and have a look.
Yeah.
And I've found Rodney. And Rodney's going to take us upstairs to room Room 4.
You're not nervous, are you?
Well, a bit.
Are you? I've got to come with you then.
Come on then, lead on. Macduff. Has anything happened to you here, Rodney?
No, never seen nothing.
No.
No, never seen the ghosts.
But you've heard the stories.
But we've had the old ghost hunters come round here, but they all stay in the room.
Really?
Yeah, they don't look. There was one woman here a few weeks ago. She got all the books on ghosts, and she was in room 7. I said, "Do you want to change into room 4?" No, she's not.
What, she wouldn't come?
She wouldn't come in here.
Even though she was, you know, interested in ghosts?
She wouldn't sleep in here during the night. Oh, and they had all these ghost hunters come from London, and I said to her, "Change your rooms. There's nobody in
Yeah.
for." Oh, she wouldn't come in here to sleep.
Really?
Oh.
Wow. Now, the story I've got is that someone was obviously staying in here one night. Following morning, they heard someone outside standing by the door, and then they heard a loud crash, as if the maid was bringing tea. Dropped the tray outside, and the person went out, opened the door to help the maid, thinking that, you know, she dropped everything, and there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Nothing. No broken crockery. Absolutely nothing. Just the sounds of crashing and breaking pottery.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, who the ghost is or what he is, I don't know. But there was a bloke murdered in the entrance hall.
That's correct. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So I would imagine that it's his tormented soul that's probably still wandering around as a poltergeist, sort of trying to, not necessarily frighten people, I think trying to get attention.
Yeah.
Possibly he needs sending to where he should go, exercising or something. My name's Richard Felix, and I'm here at my base at the old county jail in the centre of Derby. This place over the last 150 years has been a place of terror, torment, and of course death. And that's one of the reasons why this place is as haunted as it is. I've chosen Derby as the catalyst for the national ghost tour of Great Britain. Over the last 10 years, I have taken in excess of 95,000 people on a ghost tour somewhere around the Midlands. And of course, have spoken to many of those people on the tours, and of course have realised just how fascinated people are by ghosts. This is the reason that we have chosen to do this tour. The video that you've just watched is a part of that series, but I want your help. If you have a ghost story, then please either email me or write to me at the address that you'll see at the end of this video. Of course, you must remember that after speaking to so many people, I think I have an ability to be able to see through some of the stories, to be able to differentiate between a story that is true or a story that's made up. And of course, you must remember that 8 out of 10 ghost stories can be explained, but it's the other 2 that you've got to worry about. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do sleep well, and don't have nightmares.